In this video, guys, I'm going to explain to you how you can make the best decisions of your life, your big decisions, your life-changing decisions with a peaceful heart and no regrets in the future. Guys, welcome to this 13th day of the Bible Advent calendar. You're seeing here what I base myself off to meditate my word today. I read my Bible in French because that's the one I own at home. But for you guys, I'm going to read the NIV version so that you can understand what I meditated today. We are going to read, you guys, be ready for Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 1. For you guys, it reads, "Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come, and the years approach when you will say, I find no pleasure in them." The thing is, the first thing that came to mind when I read that verse in French was not necessarily that sense of be mindful, otherwise, your future will depend on whether or not you made the right choice and the bad choice. There's no such thing for me, because I think as a human being, we are going to choose the choices that will enable us to survive, first of all. I would understand that you wouldn't necessarily make decisions that are going to destroy you in the future normally, right? In French, when I read that verse, the first thing that came to me was not necessarily the obvious thing about be careful about the choices that you make during your youth because you're going to reap the consequences in your older days. I think that's basic common sense. It's nice to be reminded of that, but that's what the English version inspires me to think about. But when I read it in the French version, Louis II, 1910, so 1910, what it literally translates to me is young fella, young man, rejoice in your youth and take part in with joy, rejoice during the days of your youth and walk in the paths that your heart desire, your heart and eyes find joy into. But know that for all of that, God will call you upon judgment. The first thing I actually thought to myself was the fact that it could be quite of an anxious verse to read, especially for Gen Z, because we know we are born into the first time in history where we actually have at our fingertip the knowledge that we need to create the life that we want. We have so many choices to make, but we also have so many factors to take into consideration. No other generation had the kind of mental battle we have to go through today. That's why you see an uprising in anxiety, depression, not just in the Gen Z community, it's Generation Z, but also across all generations. So you can actually see that even the older generations are still going through mental health struggles, right? Imagine the generation that actually grew up in the transition. So I'm talking about the early Gen Zs, just like me, and the transition of the world. Those, my younger brothers and sisters, who actually have been born into the era we are into right now, we are living through. And I can understand that the biggest struggle is not necessarily that we're not aware that we need to be careful, that we need to be mindful, that we need to be smart about our choices. I think we are so aware of that it cripples a lot of us. But what I wanted to share with you today was that simple perspective. The perspective is in the problem of, so basically the answer to the question of how do you not become anxious? How do you actually make decisions that you will own in your later years with pride because you would have chosen what would have brought you joy, and peace? How do you not let fear cripple you, all the while knowing how to make wise decisions, all the while knowing that those decisions will impact your future, all the while considering the fact that everything is possible along the way. Nothing is really definite, but there is some form of rigidity that comes along with the years of your life because of how things are just settled to be through serendipity and all of that. How do you make the choices that will have an impact on your future self without being anxious? How do you do that? Well, the answer is actually in the actual verse. In French, there is a particular expression that actually was brought to my attention. Rejoice. In the English version, guys, your equivalent could be remember your youth. I would say in the actual verse that you guys see in the NIV version, you do not have the equivalent, right? But what I would find essentials to remember in terms of mindset, rejoice. What I mean by that is the fact that the choices that you will make today, sorry, my TikTok limit actually rang during my explanation, but I want you guys to remember that the best decisions that you will make is the one that actually brings you joy. Rejoice. Take pleasure in this. When we talk about joy here, guys, we're not talking about cheap thrills. We're talking about that inner voice of yours that you need to listen to. There is a reason why it brings you joy. It's because it brings out something out of you that God instilled. That is something you were born to do. One way or another, always prioritize the choices that you will not regret in your older years because it would have fed your soul. Feed your soul, God, guys. Always make sure you choose, repeat after me, joy, peace, something that aligns with your inner self. Every single time you redirect your choices, your emotions, your energy towards your North Star, no matter what people will say, how society progresses, you will never regret your decisions because you would have been true to yourself. And even if right now you feel like you don't know yourself enough, the data that you currently have about yourself is good enough. I don't want you to be too cautious. I don't want you to be too careless. I want you to be balanced because when you choose what you rejoice into, your soul will thank you for it later. Perfect combo. That's the way of God.